So my guess is if you clicked into this, you're at some place where your calendar is pretty full. You have to make a lot of organic content for your business. You want to have more people on your team. Maybe you have some type of setter, VA. Maybe you have a coach who's working for you, right? And you're hitting this place where you're making good money. You're bringing people in from your organic content. But at the end of the day, when you make a post, when you are pushing out content, you really have no control over how many people want to raise their hand, right? You're relying on your setter to be able to connect with people who like a post, who, maybe they want to get on a call, or they're going and searching hashtags and wanting to, or hoping that they find somebody who is just open to being spammed and book a call to talk about fitness. And so if that's you, I just want to let you know that that place, it's just not necessarily fun. I've been there. We did in 2021, we did 375K organically inside our fitness business. And then we hit a wall where we're just like, yo, we want to have some predictable revenue. And so, I did the typical route. I went and bought, certain coaching courses, yada, yada, over and over to be thoroughly, thoroughly displeased at each and every stage. And so if I can give you 3 key things that are going to help you understand the framework or lens that you need to, or that you want to gain for your business to grow it in a fashion that is sustainable, fits your life, then bear with me. But we'll first preface with that. Don't think of paid traffic as something that is going to right all your wrongs, is going to allow you to just never need to create any long form content, to not create new organic posts, right? You still have to be doing what you're already doing well, but this is going to help you speed this up, compound it, create some predictability, and ultimately keep the plates of your team full, right? Which is the goal. If you're going to bring somebody on, right, they want to get paid. If they get paid more, they're going to be more intrinsically motivated. They're going to do better work for your company. And thus, right, you're going to hopefully have less headaches because people are taking the workload off of you in fulfillment and potentially sales. And also that paid traffic is hopefully allowing you to maybe decrease the sense or urge that you have to incessantly post all the time and hope that the next post you make is one that somebody is ready to buy, right? So really when we get into it, the first thing that we're looking for, right, is predictability. And so when we're doing just paid traffic or we're doing just organic, right, we don't have that capacity to create predictability, right? We create a reel, right? We post that reel. That one didn't necessarily get too many views, right? Didn't expand to a new audience, or didn't get that much engagement. And then we make a story, right? Oh, that story, that one did pretty well, but this week just didn't do as well, right? So how are we going to get more people to raise their hand, start a conversation, want to get on a call? And so when we don't have that predictability, like, yes, we can be making high profit, but for me, the big headache, the big source of frustration was not necessarily knowing, like, where are my next calls going to come from, right? Not having a consistent clip of understanding that I know that even if I don't post every single day, right, we're going to have calls, we're going to have people opting in, we're going to have people getting warmed up to who we are. And it's not just based on like, how jazzed am I to talk about the same thing in a different way, right? Can I figure out a new way to talk about calories today that I haven't talked about before, or talk about macros in a way that I haven't talked about macros before? And so when we are first thinking about paid traffic, it's not necessarily like, I just want to, how can I make as much money as possible? We need to get in the lens of like, okay, for me to grow a business, a legit business, I need to have predictability in my revenue model, right? I was talking to a buddy the other day who is a cash practice physical therapist, right? And he rents a spot from somebody that he doesn't necessarily, it's a spot that he just wants to get out of eventually, right? And so for him, I was like, okay, what do you feel like is the next big step for your business? He's like, next year, have my own spot. And I was like, well, okay. But the reality is, he's like, your business is already only working and growing based off the time and energy you're putting in. So if you go and get a brick and mortar spot, now your time and energy is strapped to more risk, right? If the bills can't be paid at the current spot he's at, it's no risk on him. He's not strapped into a long-term lease, right? He's just like, cool, I'm out. Sorry for your, not being able to keep the lights on. I'm just going to go over to this other gym that is going to have me, and I'll be good. I'm going to pull all my people over here, and I'm all right, right? And so for him, I was like, okay, I get that you want your own spot. You want that autonomy. It seems cool. But before you do that, you need to know how are you going to predictably bring in leads and create new customers at a consistent clip. Because if not, how do you sustain a business purely off of word of mouth referrals, right? How do you keep the lights on, right, without you always having to be there, right? And so your first step is to figure out not how do I get into a spot. Your first step is to how do I create predictable revenue inside my business, right? And so for him, right, it's looking at paid traffic, creating awareness, right? Getting people to, opt in for his little free session evaluation, right? We live in the mountains. A lot of people train, do different things, mountain biking, skiing, all that stuff. So it's easy to get people to want to come in to optimize certain things for him, right? And so that's layer number one for you is not just saying like, 4-hour work week, make a lot of money, run ads, right? It's predictability, revenue model. So when you grow and scale, right, you can make things about the numbers, right? And so that goes to the next thing is when you're talking about numbers and efficiency, right? We need to have speed to acquisition in the sense that our team isn't wasting so much of their time going out and trying to prospect and find people, right? People are coming to us either opting in very lightly, maybe giving us a follow, maybe liking a certain thing, commenting on a certain post, right? To eventually, having some more direct, I'm looking to coach, or I have a few spots open in XYZ, right? Click this, opt in, book a call, right? Whatever it is, right? It's all about speed to acquisition. So can we either, with what we're doing, so if we can create predictable awareness, predictable, new amount of people seeing our content, right? We're getting them one step further so that when we go and pay people to nurture leads, right, they can decrease the time that they're wasting trying to potentially find somebody, to know people who are already somewhat warm, ready, and open to who we are, right? And so that helps you when you're paying for somebody to scale your business, that they can focus on the correct things inside of their business, right? They can focus on establishing relationships with the right people who are already coming to your little corner of the internet and resonating with who you are. So their lives are easier. They feel more competent at their skill, at their position, so that they also enjoy it more, right? When you have somebody consistently getting beat up, sending out so many messages to people who don't necessarily want to be messaged, right? You're not letting them feel competent. You're not letting them feel excited, right? You need to help them get those little dopamine hits so they want to keep doing the task, right? And so we increase, obviously, speed to acquisition is, you hear that and you say, wow, I want to increase speed to acquisition to, get more people in. But it's speed to acquisition in the sense of our team, the people who we are paying for their precious time, are getting speed to the correct things, the correct people, to acquire the correct people. And then lastly, that gives us point number 3, which is leverage, right? We need leverage in our business in the sense of I can go in and I can dissect exactly based off the KPIs where my business is breaking down. That is leverage. Leverage is, okay, I know right here in, let's say show up rates to an initial call or a sales call, right? I see that those show up rates are down or could be improved, right? Every other number on the front end, right? We have a good conversion rate of clicks to leads, right? We have a good conversion rate of those who opted in for the lead thing are getting booked on a call or whatever it is, or getting sent a DM offer letter. They're getting all those things on the front end look great, but show ups to the call or show ups to or to get over the line and purchase the thing, right? Those are all low. Like that's the lowest margin, right? Or lowest number. We have a 15% show up rate. Well, that sucks, right? How do we, if we just do, 2x that, we get up to 45%, we get up to 50%, right? Our average for the show up rate at our best is typically around 75 to 80%, right? So 85, 70 to 80%, right? Even if I take it up to, if I could get it up to 85%, right? I don't have to increase how much I'm spending on ads to make more money. And so that's where leverage comes in for everyone is I want you to think of running paid traffic to increase your leverage of understanding exactly what lever to pull in your business to make more money, to squeeze out as much profit as possible, right? To see if is it a top line front end or do I need to increase the LTV of our customers, right? It's leverage over not necessarily just throwing shit against the wall and hoping it sticks, right? Man, let's make more content. Let's talk about this. I don't know if people want to hear about that. I don't know if, it's summertime and people aren't consuming as much long form content, and they don't have as much time to sit around like they do in winter and watch all this, content that I'm pumping out. I hope somebody comes in and buys, right? And so same thing with a brick and mortar, right? You're thinking of leverage in the sense of, well, it's done pretty well so far off of word of mouth. I hope that I just continue to get more people in, and you know what? I think I want to go bigger. I want to take on more risk, right? I want to get my own spot, right? But you have no leverage or control, right? You have no predictability, right? And your speed to acquisition is based on the fact that you hope that word of mouth gets people to, in your local area, talk about you and hopefully come in, right? There's no way, no lever for you to pull on your business on that front end, right? Same thing with if you're doing organic content to grow your online fitness business, right? You can create more content, but you're at the mercy of the algorithm. You're at the mercy that you post it at the right time, right? That most of your followers see this, that you're at the mercy that, enough people that they kind of tested to push to a new audience, watched a large enough percentage that they were willing to push it out to more people. But maybe it was a great reel, maybe it was a great piece of content, but the few new people that they tested it to, it didn't necessarily pan out. So it got lowered and didn't get pushed out, right? And so that's where paid traffic is thinking about predictability of more impressions, more eyeballs on who we are, right? Feeding into this ecosystem of what I'm already doing well, right? Getting speed to acquisition for the people on my company or even myself, that I can go in and I can focus on the right people. I can get to that acquisition faster, either with my time or employees' times, right? Versus I got to go out and I got to headhunt. I got to hope that I'm going to run into the right person, versus you're putting out stuff that is starting to attract people, the right people to you, the people who are resonating with your ad, how you talk, how you sound, right? Who exactly you serve, so on and so forth. You're decreasing that speed to acquisition because you're allowing software technology to go out and do some of that legwork of nurturing, finding those people for you, bringing them into your atmosphere so you can get right to the things that matter, right? Conversating, following up, bringing people in, sending the emails, whatever it is, speed to acquisition for you or your employees. And then lastly, leverage, right? Leverage is not just, getting employees so you don't have to work, right? Leverage is understanding at each stage of your business, what are the numbers that I need to run to be successful, to be profitable, to not necessarily have to work harder. I can work smarter, and I don't have to guess of where in my business I need to improve to make my life feel better. And so if you're thinking about running paid traffic, you want to create and bake in some predictable revenue. The easiest thing to do is essentially start with some type of low friction ad revenue machine that allows inefficiencies of your knowledge with paid traffic to allow you to get more customers, right? So that first one is essentially running what a lot of people call the IG growth funnel, right? Driving people to your page, allowing your page, the algorithm, to hopefully warm up followers more, allows you to create conversations, allows them to click around on certain links, so on and so forth. It gives you more options at inefficiency. So if that's you, click the link, check out basically a either free or cheap program to grow your IG funnel, start running some paid traffic, essentially compound on hopefully what you're doing all organically. Before you go into things like a self-booking call funnel or go into a DM selling funnel that will essentially allow you to scale, needing less time and energy. But you first have to master the basics. You need to compound on what you're already doing organically, and then that's going to give you to this place where you understand the core concepts, you understand what it means and takes to get somebody off your page and create a sale. And then you can start adding in some CRM. You can start adding in some follow-up sequences or warming up effects, content that is going to essentially get people more bought into your method, book calls automatically, require less people, time, and energy to scale up your paid traffic, your revenue, and hopefully, most importantly, the profit. So click the link. Hope this helps. I want you to just get a fun understanding of what life should be with paid traffic, right? Predictability, speed to acquisition, leverage versus just, hey, let's pay traffic. Here's how you do it. Make 100K a month, right? Yes, we want to make more money, right? But we also need to be thinking in higher CEO terms, right? We need to be thinking about, okay, sure, selfishly, or maybe not selfishly, I want to create more, I want to make more money, right? But more importantly, right, every business is how can we create predictable revenue, right? How can we, the people that we employ, or how can we make the people that we employ feel competent and successful at their job? Because if they are, right, then they're going to be more excited to show up to work. And if they can do that and also get paid more, that's a 1-2 punch knockout to getting people bought into the mission and wanting to stay with your company for a long time. And then the third piece is leverage, right? As you, as a business owner, instead of just hoping that somebody refers somebody, hoping this next piece of content gets people into your atmosphere, it's leverage to be, I can bring in a certain amount of people. And if I bring in a certain amount of people, I start to see averaging trends and I see like, okay, where are the pieces falling apart that I can go and pull? So I know exactly what I need to do to get the team, the revenue, the profitability back up. So keep crushing it, Fit Pros. See you next time.